Hey guys, Prince of Macedon here, and I'm going to do an interview with the greatest Rome 2 player I know of. He posts regular videos of his Rome 2 micro skills, and he comes all the way from Romania. He was the first winner of the first Rome 2 Scan Intel tournament. He is the Prussian Prince. And Prussian Prince, care to give us a quick intro into who you are and what you do on YouTube?
Hello there, guys. This is the Prussian Prince, and as the other prince said, I am from Romania, from Bucharest to be exact. I was born here, and again, I'm from, I'm fully Romanian. Nothing else. Full Romanian.
Complete Romanian.
Yeah, 100%. 20 years old, just a student, nothing else. Don't really work right now. Live in a flat. Life's decent.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Awesome.
Enjoying myself. Then, of course, I have a YouTube channel, which some of you may know about, where I post Total War gameplay videos, be it Napoleon, or Rome 2, or Shogun 2, Fall of the Samurai, whichever. Mostly those. Or Paradox Interactive Grand Strategy games, such as Europa Universalis 4, Crusader Kings 2, hopefully Hearts of Iron 4 once it's released. I'm really excited for that.
Mm-hmm.
And I did start out like 4 years ago, but I really wasn't into it back then. I didn't post very often or anything. I did start out with Hearts of Iron 3 and Napoleon Total War. That was basically because I saw Prince of Macedon's, aka Alex's, videos, as well as Era of Carthage's. And I thought, wow, this looks amazing. And I like what this guy is doing. And I think I want to try it myself. Because it looks very interesting and fun. And helpful to people. So I basically started out my YouTube channel after seeing your channels. And this is the reason why I'm called the Prussian Prince as well. Because Prince of Macedon influenced me. That's why.
That's
so
awesome.
To speak. Yeah.
I'm greatly honored by that.
Yeah. So I decided to pick Prince as part of my my name. As for the Prussian part, it's because I used to play a lot of Napoleon Total War multiplayer, and there I chose Prussia a lot of times because I love Prussian Fusiliers. I love Prussia. I love Germany, and I know Alex is a fan of the German national football team.
Guilty.
And yeah, I don't know if there's much else to add, I guess. I might be doing Stronghold Crusader 2 or other games
I think you will.
soon.
Yeah. I'm pretty sure you will be. And a quick disclaimer. This is our second time doing this interview, so I apologize to the Prussian Prince for redoing this whole thing, because when I first started, the audio didn't record. So
It's fine, because it happens. It's technology.
Yeah.
Not always reliable.
Indeed. Can't live with it, you can't live without it. Alright, well, so yeah, that's the Prussian Prince, and before we delve into the Total War and Rome 2 questions, we're going to do a few more general questions about the Prussian Prince, just to kick things off. So, you are the Prussian Prince, and you do a lot of gaming, so how would you say in a given day, how much time do you devote to gaming, would you say?
Mostly, well, at most 4 hours, basically.
That's intense.
Yeah.
Is that
between
like
3 to 4?
Is that like in one sitting, or do you like space it out in a day?
It really depends, but usually not in one sitting, unless it's this EU4 multiplayer thing I'm going for. Every Saturday it takes like 6 to 8 hours usually.
Oh my gosh.
Pretty long. For those of you who don't know, EU4 is Europa Universalis 4. That's the terminology.
Great series. Great series.
Yeah.
And how much of that time do you devote to Total War gaming, would you say?
Like half, I guess. Half of that.
Okay.
Be a good estimate.
Cool. And I'm going to ask you some other general questions here. Do you have a favorite military commander?
Napoleon and Kutuzov, I guess.
Kutuzov, those are good ones. Napoleon especially.
Yeah.
Everyone's hero. Now, I'm going to ask you a question about Romanian heroes. Vlad Tepes, hero or monster?
Bit of quite neutral towards this, I guess, but I do think that he can be quite scary because his name, the last name, Tepes, basically, it has something to do with impaling people, and he actually impaled people. So it's kind of ironic, I guess. But his name actually implies what he does.
Do you think you'll incorporate impaling in any of your future videos, do you think?
I don't know, I guess. Like, I'm not sure where it would fit.
And staying on track with the Tepes thing, Vlad Tepes, aka Dracula, he has this this Hollywood's coming out with a new movie called Dracula Untold, starring I believe Luke Evans. Any opinions on this new movie? Comes out October 2014.
Well, you actually reminded me of the movie because I didn't really know about it, but the caster lineup, or not caster, how is it called? Casting lineup.
Yeah.
It's it looks very interesting, and I like the actors that are going to be starring in it, and it seems to be interesting. You did mention earlier that it's combining historical things with supernatural ones, so
yes,
should be should be interesting.
Yeah, in the trailer they show Vlad. He gets his hand, and he smashes down, and then you see all these Ottoman soldiers get disintegrated by it. It looks pretty badass, I think. Do you think you'll watch it in theaters when it comes out?
Yeah, sure. It does come out next month, right?
Yep, indeed. At least in the United States.
Okay.
That's awesome. All right, now we are going to move on to the Total War questions, and more specifically the Rome 2 questions. And little disclaimer: this new patch that we're going to talk about, the Emperor's Edition, patch 15, it just came out, so some of our facts might be wrong. So we're just going to go on what we feel.
Some of our facts may not be facts.
This is more about the insight into the Prussian Prince more than anything else, pretty much. All right, so you ready for these, my friend?
Yes, I'm ready.
All right. You might have touched on this earlier, but when and how did you get started on the Total War series?
I started out with Rome Total War, single-player campaign. Same thing with Medieval 2. I didn't really play multiplayer until Napoleon came out. That's when I really got into multiplayer, and I played almost exclusively multiplayer. Something like 90% at least multiplayer,
wow.
Maybe more.
So you barely touched the campaign after you touched multiplayer. What do you think was the reasoning for that?
Maybe I got more competitive and more interested in playing against other players, I guess. Mm-hmm. And because at that time I saw your multiplayer videos, I thought it was quite cool.
Awesome.
To play against others.
That's awesome. And do you have a favorite Total War game out of the series?
Shogun 2, in particular Fall of the Samurai. I really like how that happened, because when it was released, it was already, I think it was the best balanced game at the start, even though it had its own issues. Mm-hmm. But the original Shogun 2 with vanilla, it was not so well balanced. There were a lot of issues early on. Same thing with Rome 2, but Fall of the Samurai, I think they got it. Like, it was amazing from the start. I really liked it. I think it may have been due to the fact that they actually did a Fall of the Samurai multiplayer beta before it came out, which like a lot of people were part of, and they gave lots of advice.
Interesting.
I guess that's why it turned out really well, at least in my opinion.
Okay. Nice. All right. Here's kind of a fun question here. If you could be any unit in Total War Rome 2, what would it be and why?
Elephants, because they look cool.
Yeah, they
and
do.
they kill a lot of stuff if micromanaged properly.
Uh-huh.
And last but not least, the other reason is because of Dogbert. During the Scan and Intel Invitational Rome 2 tournament, whenever there were elephants on the field, he would always zoom in and be like, he would be screaming, "Elephants!" And that was just an amazing moment.
I remember that. That was pretty intense. It's like, where? I was looking around, where's the elephants? All right. So we're gonna touch up on the new Emperor Edition. It includes the patch 15 for Total War Rome 2. So what changes in this new Emperor's Edition or this new patch will you say has the biggest impact on the multiplayer aspect of Rome 2?
The battle duration has increased a lot because I believe most units got an HP boost, an armor boost, as well as a morale boost. So fights take longer in general. This indirectly helps skirmishers and hoplites. Well, skirmishers because they get more damage. They get more time to do damage.
Mm-hmm.
Hoplites can last for longer. So now there's a lot more synergy between the two skirmishers and hoplites, I feel, which should make these armies a lot more viable than before.
Okay. Do you think the new patch will benefit your micro skills more, or not benefit as much?
I think it will not benefit as much because the pacing is slower.
Mm-hmm.
Units take longer to kill, even if you surround them. They still take quite a long time to kill. It doesn't have to be an elite unit, even like a regular unit can hold out for quite a while. Only way to quickly destroy a unit at the moment is to use chariots or elephants. That's how you can destroy a unit very quickly. Potentially multiple units as well.
Nice. Oh, and in our first interview, you mentioned a very interesting episode you had with chariots. Did you care to relive that moment with us?
All right. So it was this 2v2 battle I played with someone, and I played as Rome. On the other side, we had Seleucids, I think, and that's the person who brought the chariots. And those chariots, let's see. I surrounded them with 2 legionary cavalry, and I also got in 2 auxiliary infantry units, which are spear infantry.
Uh-huh.
And at the same time, I was trying to use my skirmishers, 3 auxiliary Balearic slingers and 1 Syrian archer, to fire into that chariot.
Firepower.
Right, lots of firepower, yeah. And what ended up happening is, interestingly enough, the chariot got through the auxiliary infantry.
No.
Through the legionary cab.
No.
It got through the skirmishes as well. And it also got past the Evocati cohort.
Oh my gosh.
Through one side and then came back through the other. And at the end of the day, it got like 260 kills or so.
Oh,
it was
geez.
pretty intense.
Granted,
I was not bracing with my melee infantry, I think, but that's still pretty crazy considering I committed almost like a full army to destroy a chariot unit, and it still got cost effective. Like, that's pretty insane.
Oh my gosh, freaking Godzilla chariot. Jeez. All right, well, let's move along from this nightmare you just had. After this latest patching of Rome 2, do you find that any factions came out stronger? And do you feel that any factions came out weaker with this new patch?
I think generally factions that have good hoplites and good skirmishers got stronger. For instance, Athens, Sparta, and RDI. RDI was like probably the worst faction in patch 14, and now it's
who's
now
them?
It's maybe like middle of the road or something.
Wow.
It's not top, but it's not the worst either.
Okay.
basically because they have Illyrian Noble Hoplites and Illyrian Hoplites, which now are really good and can tank a lot while your skirmishes do the damage. That being said, they are still weak in the cavalry department because they only have like really cheap cav that's not quite strong. And even though their skirmishes are quite cost effective, they're still not as strong as other skirmishes. So another faction that I think benefits from this would be factions with Eastern archers, like Pontus. I think Pontus is in a really good state because it has chariots, it has Eastern archers, it has some pretty good chances overall, and some good cav too that they have. And then there is Parthia, and Armenia is pretty strong. They have Eastern archers or like really good slingers, and yeah, that is why they are also effective. So you can essentially bring on a flat map lots of cavalry, melee cavalry, and skirmishes, and just a very small amount of melee infantry. And you can do well if you micro well, of course, with that. But it's very risky because if you make a mistake and your archers get caught by cavalry or something, you are probably gonna lose them if it's a strong cavalry unit.
Interesting. And factions that didn't quite benefit so much from this patch?
Suebi, I think, got really nerfed in this patch because they used to depend a lot on ending the game early and just chain routing the opponent. But that got changed. They don't have as much of an effect anymore. Not sure how viable they are, but they're definitely not as good as they used to be. Especially because a lot of the units lost their abilities. For instance, Praetorians for Rome, they don't have Use the Whip anymore. Oh no, Praetorians have Use the Whip, but the other Roman melee infantry units don't. But mostly you don't really see Praetorians on the field because they're just so expensive, and Rome already has very good mid-tier melee infantry, which is extremely cost-effective. Like say Legionaries or Principes or Evocatis, something like that. Even Hastati, they're very cheap and still very good if you can flank with them, for instance. But yeah, factions with factions with swords that depend on swords are not as strong anymore, like barbarians, for instance. I don't feel they're as strong anymore.
Interesting. And I understand that you don't have a favorite faction in Rome 2. So how do you determine which faction you're going to use when you enter a multiplayer battle?
Okay, so there are several factors. There is 1, the map. 2, the faction that my opponent's chosen. 3, what I currently feel like doing at the time, be it rushing or skirmishing. And potentially 4, if I know the player, like what I expect from him. Basically, that's what influences which faction I pick and which build I choose as well.
Interesting. And you mentioned skirmish or rush. How do you find yourself building your armies? Do you tend to favor skirmish armies more, or rush armies more, or more of a more balanced approach between the two extremes?
Before Emperor Edition, I'd say I rushed a lot. Most of the time, because it was really effective back then. In patch 15, which is Emperor Edition, it's not as effective anymore, because as I said, battles now take longer, hoplites are stronger, skirmishers are stronger overall, so all these things lead to skirmishing armies becoming much more viable than before. Which is why now I think I might be using armies with lots of skirmishes more than I used to, at least.
Oh, very true. And another question about your army builds. How exactly do you go about building your armies? Do you have like a preset, or do you have anything that's in common with each particular army that you build from one battle to the next?
There are multiple reasons why I don't use presets. Some people do, but I personally don't. I know like some really good players also don't use presets. But basically, every time a patch changes, your build is kind of gonna be obsolete, which you're gonna have to do something else. So then you're gonna have to delete all your presets and start over again. So personally, what I like to do is just have an idea of the build I want and just play with that. Doesn't have to be like exact or, oh, if I bring, I don't know, I'll have 100 funds left. If I bring this, I'll just make the build right there and then and see how it goes. Play around an idea. Oh, I want to win the camp fight, or I want to have more skirmishes than him. I want to have more melee infantry than him. Something like that. But usually, no presets. I can usually make an army without having to need presets. I guess preset armies might be useful in quick battles, though. If the opponent you meet, he immediately picks an army and presses ready, then you only have like 60 seconds.
Oh, I've done that before.
Yeah.
I win the battle. Well, so we've heard some of your thoughts on the game. We're going to watch some awesome gameplay footage from one of your more recent battles. So we're going to switch screens here, and we're going to show some actual gameplay footage from the Prussian Prince, so you can see his military expertise in action. All right, guys, we have switched to the video footage, and we're watching Prussian Prince build his army, and he's using Armenia. Thank you, Prussian, for using this newest faction for us.
Yay!
Yay!
It's pretty awesome, this faction.
Yeah. Do you always buy your troops this quickly?
Generally, yes, I do.
This is pretty intense, just watching you like cycle through their units. So I see you got a lot of like cataphracts, and you got 6 archers. Is that a common theme in your armies when you use these Eastern factions?
Yes, I prefer to have. Well, basically, what I use in my armies is sometimes I just completely neglect one area of my build. Say, in this situation, it is my melee infantry component. I only have 3 Eastern spearmen, which are really just terrible. They're only good at holding for, I don't know, like some seconds, but that's about it. They don't really do anything else. They're just there to be there, I guess. Just hold up the enemy for a little. Whereas with my skirmishers, by bringing so many, I'm assuring myself that I will not have a skirmishing disadvantage, because I have 10 skirmishers in total. 6 Eastern archers and 4 horse archers, basically, and it's quite a lot. And as for the melee cap component, it's also pretty strong. I have Royal Cataphract as a gen, then 4 Eastern archers and 2 Mercenary Cappadocian Cav. I think the Mercenary Cappadocian Cav is unique to Armenia, from what I have seen. And basically I have, with this build I should have 1 melee cavalry superiority, 2 skirmishing superiority. So it gives me, basically I'm stronger than my opponent in 2 areas, and I'm only weaker in 1, and that's melee infantry. And I will take that weakness over having 2 strengths over him. Because what it means is that I can sacrifice my cavalry, or at least some of my cavalry, get rid of his, and get rid of his skirmishers. And once that happens, well, you'll see what's going to happen, because he'll be forced into a box, because he only has hoplites, and then he won't be able to do much. And with control groups, you can see that I have my general on 1. By the way, you couldn't do this in previous Total War games, as far as I know. You couldn't have 1 unit in a control group, but now you can. And I usually put my general in 1. That's control group number 1.
Okay.
Because I really need to be able to pull him out when necessary, or send him to a flank or something that needs morale boosts, or I don't know, melee defense boosts with the raise the banner. And I get to know where he is on the map very easily. I can always access him quite quickly. As for control group number 2, I have my skirmishers on it, basically my foot archers in this case. I use that control group for archers because it allows me to target fire easily, and in case I get attacked by cavalry, I'm just going to pull back my skirmishers really easily without having to just physically go with my cursor and select all the units. which might take like 1 or 2 seconds, and that might be the difference between getting my archers charged by cavalry or not, which would be a pretty big difference. This is why I have them on number 2. Just makes things a little bit more efficient. Now, I haven't really used... you can go without control groups if you want to. It's just a little bit harder. And I think in the beginning you should try to use control groups at least when you're not as... not that fast in terms of APM, which stands for actions per minute.
Mm-hmm.
Those of you who don't know. And then for cavalry, I don't really have them in any control groups. Because
Why is that?
That changes all the time. I don't keep my cavalry in one blob or something like that normally. If I did, like, I would probably keep them in the control group then.
Yeah.
But this gives me more freedom, because control groups for cavalry wouldn't really help me, because I keep just moving cavalry around, so I can't really... It becomes really hard to tell which control group is which cavalry unit at that point.
Gotcha.
Or which cavalry units. So it's like... I'd be wasting more time looking at where my cavalry is than in my control groups to see which control group to use for which cavalry than just simply selecting them on the map, I think at least.
That makes sense. So right now, what are you thinking right now as you approach your opponent's army? I see you doing a lot of adjustments to your marches there.
Well, basically, I want to get some flanking shots on his hoplites with these archers. That's the one thing I want to do.
Uh-huh.
And the other thing I want to do is I want to see if I can engage his cavalry component as fast as possible so I can get rid of it. You can see that I'm trying to move forward with my cavalry and try to get him to attack me, like just enticing him to move forward and try and charge me, but he doesn't really fall for the bait.
Gotcha.
For now, at least. And here you can see that I'm also trying to get to his skirmishes, which if I do, it's going to be a big deal, because it means that my Eastern Archers will be able to do much better in later on, because they won't be harassed by his own archers. And Eastern Archers don't actually have too much armor. I think it's like 10 or 15, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas if they were Syrian archers, for instance, it wouldn't be as big of a deal if they got shot, because they have like 40 armor, so they can withstand some volleys, whereas Eastern archers can't really do that. But yeah, you can see that I got my cavalry into his archers, and I'm killing quite a few, which is really good for me. Even if I lose this one cavalry unit and I kill all his archers, or at least most of them, it's a cost-effective trade, and I will take it.
That's really sweet. Is that something you always aim to do, like use your cav to take out skirmishers near the beginning?
Yeah. Though it doesn't always work, especially against really good players. Normally they just they're able to defend their archers very nicely. So this isn't something that you will be able to pull off in every game. It's not something that's going to happen.
Okay.
At least against good players, you're not going to be able to always do that.
All right. And a question about your archers. Are you using heavy shot, or do you use the standard shot?
So I use the standard shot because heavy shot doesn't really add that much more missile damage, but it does affect the accuracy of a unit, and it also reduces the range, which is a problem.
Yeah.
And they don't really need that much missile damage. Their missile damage is already pretty high. They have like 35 or something like that. Heavy shot doesn't really add that much more.
Mm-hmm.
I think it gets them to like 40 plus or something. I'm not sure.
Gotcha.
Exactly what the value is, which isn't really a big difference, but they do lose accuracy. And accuracy is very important when you're firing at targets that are moving.
Very true.
For instance. Or if, say, I'm using Hosach and I have it on heavy shot, it's going to be the same thing because it's moving. It won't have as much accuracy as it normally would, I think.
Oh, quick question. Oh, sorry.
At least that's what I think. And Jonasty was actually the one who told me about this some time ago.
Okay. About 5 seconds ago, your cav was pretty much just bulldozing all those units. Did you decide to leave them there because if you pulled them out, they might retreat, or were you just trying to take down as many enemy troops as you could?
Sorry, which cav? The one that was engaged with the archers or something?
Yeah.
Or which one?
Yeah,
Yeah, well, at that point it was not really possible to pull out because he had cavalry there, and I thought I would basically lose the cavalry unit anyway, so I might as well just do as much damage as possible and hold him for as long as possible.
Okay, I was just wondering. And I see you're targeting his general, it looks like,
Yeah.
with your archers. Do you find that killing the opponent's general to be an effective tactic?
Yes, it's effective, especially if... Well, it helps mostly in the late game, but if you can get him in the early game, it's also very important.
Okay.
And here, it's especially important because he is a cavalry unit, which I need to get rid of anyway. Like, I would have targeted it if it wasn't the general unit anyway. Still would have targeted it, since it's cav, which I need to kill.
That's true.
Desperately.
That's cool. And to my viewers, this isn't fast forward. This really is him clicking at his at his normal speed. And yeah, back to the APM. So, what is your APM in Rome 2? Have you ever measured it? Because this is like the fastest I've seen anyone play Rome 2 ever.
My APM in Rome 2, I don't know exactly what it is, but my APM in StarCraft 2 is 250. It's probably not that high, but because Rome 2 isn't as fast of a game, but still pretty high. But I would say that Pointman is also very fast, and there are some other people who are fast. Then there are people who are just very accurate with their clicks.
Gotcha.
Instead of being very fast.
Yeah, just to give my viewers some perspective, my APM in StarCraft is only like 70. So this guy, he's like times 4. He's like da 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 da. It's pretty intense. Here's a general question right now. Like when you saw your opponent's Macedonian army, do you think he could have built a more effective Macedonian army against your Armenians? Do you think? How would you go about building Macedon for this matchup?
For this matchup, I would probably bring some Sarissa Cav because they're very fast and mobile. Like, I think there's maybe the fastest unit in the game. I'm not sure. One of the fastest cavalry units. Maybe not faster than Light Horse, or about the same basically anyway. And really fast. And if you can get to my skirmishes as Armenia, like, if I lose my skirmishers, it's just going to be really, really difficult for me to win the game. Mm-hmm. Because I wouldn't really have much to kill hoplites. Like, cavalry is not so effective against hoplites, especially braced hoplites, I find, at least in the newest batch. So if I lost my archers, I would have a really, really rough time. You could basically kill them with Sarissa Cav. Even if he was to give away some Sarissa Cav just to kill my archers, it would still be a very cost-effective trade for him. Because Eastern archers are not the strongest in melee. Mm-hmm. For instance, elite Persian archers, they actually use a spear while fighting in melee, whereas Eastern archers don't. And Eastern archers have only 10 to 15 morale, whereas not morale but armor, whereas Persian archers have like 40, I think. Okay. Which is much higher as well, and of course, much better melee stats for elite Persian archers. So if it was elite Persian archers against Sarissa Cav wouldn't be able to do as much, like much less than it would against Eastern archers. But for this build specifically that I'm using, Sarissa Cav would have been extremely good. I think, at least. He should have brought like 2 units or something. At least, and just try to get them into my skirmishers while he stops my cav with his own cav, like his stronger cav, not the Sarissa.
Okay, what other kind of troops should Macedon bring in addition to his Sarissa cav? Do you think?
Well, it really depends on the build I'm bringing. But for instance, Thessalian cav can be quite nice. Or Aspis Companion Cav is a really strong melee cavalry unit. It's one of the strongest in the game. Companion Cav, the Shock Cav, is also really good.
Yeah.
And Hoplites was a really good choice by him, because like Eastern Archers, yes, they will still be cost effective against Hoplites, but I'll have a hard time killing his hoplites with my cavalry.
Okay.
Then again, if I brought the Cartly Axeman spam, and he brought lots of hoplites, which he should have done in this situation, I would have had a lot of... he would have had a lot of issues to try and beat the Cartly Axeman spam with a hoplite spam, essentially. Because hoplites don't really do very well against Cartly Axeman. I believe Cartly Axeman has some bonuses against armor, some really high ones.
Nice.
I think it might be pretty high weapon damage or something. Armor piercing.
Yeah. That's intense. And here, I see that your archers are they in skirmish mode, or are you doing all this manually? And what's the advantage to either method?
So, my archers are not in skirmish mode because of 2 reasons. One, when they're next to the red line, they won't try to do anything, basically. They'll just sit there and not run away. Because the game doesn't account for the red line for skirmish mode.
Okay.
So it's not like... I don't know if it's a bug or if it's a design decision to make people use just micromore or something. I don't know. So I definitely don't think it's good for foot archers. But I think it might be good for horse archers because you don't really have as much time to micro horse archers because they're just so fast, and you can afford to have horse archers on skirmish mode. And generally you are harassing a lot more with horse archers. You're harassing their melee cavalry more, so you need that skirmish mode, because if you don't have skirmish mode on horse archers and you get very close to a melee cavalry unit, and he charges and you react 1 second too late, your unit might get charged because he gets a charge bonus, a charge speed applied to him, which raises the speed his cavalry unit is running at, if it's in the charge animation, as far as I know.
Yeah.
Which is quite important. So that's why I prefer to keep foot archers off of skirmish mode. The red line thing, and because... I need them to fire at a unit sometimes without them running away. For instance, I think there was a point in this game earlier where you had this one cavalry unit that was chasing my archers by the red line. If I had skirmish mode on, I probably would have lost some archers because they would have tried to run away. Whereas in this situation, I didn't have them on. I didn't have skirmish mode on, which allowed my archers to actually fire at the cavalry unit and not run away. And they killed the cavalry unit before the cavalry unit got to them, which was very important. Otherwise, I could have lost some good amount of archers if my unit was in skirmish mode.
Oh, very true. And I know in our first interview you were talking about the best angle for your archers to fire at enemy units with shields.
Yes. So there are 4 angles. Frontally, which is the worst. Then there's the left side of the enemy unit, which is also pretty bad because they have shields on that side. As you can see here in this video as well. You can look at the hoplites. They hold their shields in with their left hands, which is why they're more protected from that angle. Now the right side is actually pretty weak because they don't have their shields there, so it will do more damage if you fire at the right side of a unit. Whereas firing into the rear is the most effective way of killing them. Well, obviously, you would expect this because they have the least armor and they have no shield there.
Gotcha. And would you say a lot of your battles end like this when you're taking this kind of army? You got your opponent surrounded like this and you're just shooting them to death? Definitely,
because I have no melee infantry, so engaging early is going to be pretty bad for me. He would most likely win the grinding fight. Otherwise, this is why I bring. This is the only way you can play this army. Basically, you can't just engage early on. You can only take some small fights to get rid of his cav and skirmishers bit by bit, you're always going to end up in this situation, usually, if you're up against, I don't know, factions with pikes or swords, or basically people who bring more infantry than you most of the times. Okay. Is what's going to happen.
That's pretty intense. So as Armenia, how do you favor Armenia's chances in this in Rome 2 now? Do you think they're stronger than Parthia, or how do you reckon they figure up or rank up?
I think they're about the same. One thing that Armenia has, which Parthia doesn't have, is the fact that they have Persian cavalry, which I haven't really tested yet, but they seem to be really nice from what I have seen. They're really cheap too, really cheap shock cav, which is nice to see. Kind of priced in the same price range as Thessalian cav for Macedon. Not sure how they fare though against Thessalian cav. Be interesting to test that out. I might have brought Persian cav if I knew exactly how they worked instead of all these cataphracts. But with cataphracts, you essentially make sure that your opponent can't really win the cav fight if you've got cataphracts, or at least very rarely. You have to get the proper charges off. Now Parthia, well, the battle's over.
That was intense.
Yeah.
But
usually they're about the same. Parthia has they don't have Cardly Axemen though, as far as I know, which is a pretty strong melee infantry unit that Armenia has.
Oh, definitely.
And yeah, that's basically it. I think they do both have elite Persian archers, or at least something similar to that.
Mm-hmm. Indeed.
Both of them have elite archers, which is... yeah, I mean, I can't really favor one faction over the other yet. I think we'll definitely see both factions being used in multiplayer for a while at least, unless somebody can actually prove that one is better than the other and does like a lot of testing.
Oh yeah.
I think we can
exhaust.
Which might happen. Yeah.
Back to elite archers. Would you ever favor bringing them, incorporating them into your skirmish army?
Yes, if I expect that they're actually really good against archers that have low armor. They'll be very cost effective. Say you're bringing Syrian archers against Eastern archers. You'll have a good time because I think it was tested, and one Syrian archer will beat something like 3 regular archers, which is quite nice. So if you bring 3 Cretan archers, for instance, they will do extremely well against regular archers and be cost effective while doing so. Yes, you will use a lot of ammo, but I think you'll still be fine because you can kill their archers much quicker than they can kill yours, even if they have double the amount, I would say. But the one disadvantage is that they're more expensive. So if your opponent brings more archers, he can afford to spread out a bit more and just make sure that you can't defend all angles. So it really depends. And of course, there are times when you can mix elite archers with regular ones. Mm-hmm. But it's a bit risky to bring both because you're investing a lot into your skirmish component if you bring both.
That's true.
But elite archers are generally better in every way. Like they have more armor, they have slightly better at least missile damage, and they can do better in melee when charged by a cav, which is very, very important because I'm sure that there will be games in which your archers are going to get charged by cavalry. There have to be some. Mm-hmm. Like nobody is going to be able to have a perfect game where his archers won't ever get charged.
Oh, exactly.
Well, you can have one game like that, I guess, but not many. Like unless you're really good. But it's kind of hard to protect your archers, especially you have so many of them, and make sure that they don't get charged.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to be really careful if you bring a mix of both elite and regular archers, basically.
And one more specific question before we wrap this up. A lot of my viewers are huge fans of Sparta, and earlier you mentioned that Sparta got pretty buffed with this newest patch. How would you go about fighting as Sparta in a large funds battle, like army composition, something in general about Sparta to make my viewers, even more efficient with them? What would you recommend as a general build as a Spartan?
So 3 crit notches,
Uh-huh.
a few pikes, like I guess between 3 to 6,
Mm-hmm.
and hoplites to defend, like Royal Spartan or Heroes of Sparta in general. Well, actually, Royal of Spartans are better, I would say, because you have more men in the unit. Heroes of Sparta have like only 90 in large unit size, whereas Royal Spartans have 120.
Yeah.
Granted, they're a bit more expensive, but it's your general unit. You can afford to spend a bit more to keep him alive, make him stronger.
Okay.
As for units on the flanks, you should get some Spartan hoplites, basically. And you could bring Tarentine Cavalry. Tarentine Cavalry is actually really versatile and cool. You can do damage to the enemy cav before he engages you.
Mm-hmm.
Really nice. You can just harass the hell out of your opponent and make him really annoyed with Tarentine Cavalry. You can weaken all of his troops that you're scared of. Say, for instance, you're playing against Barbarians and he has Oathsworn. You can target with your Tarentine Cav. They're Oathsworns, basically. Because Oathsworns are really crazy because they're really good in melee. But if they engage pikes frontally, they will still not do very well. Which is what you want to try and do as Sparta. Force your opponent to take a frontal engagement. And if you have skirmish advantage as Sparta, which you actually need to secure, because if you have that skirmish advantage, you can protect your pikes from missile fire, which is very important, because if you lose your pikes, then you don't really have much power in your build anymore. That's kind of like your focus when you play against, say, swords, because hoplites are not going to deal with the Roman evocatis, or at least they will tank for long and they will actually get some kills, but they're not going to beat them. You need pikes for that, and you need the skirmisher units. So that's why you need to be strong in terms of foot skirmishes, and that's why you need to be strong in terms of pike numbers, because pikes are cost effective against sword units, and so are foot skirmishers, whereas hoplites are not. They're only good at just holding, which is why they work very well with the skirmishers together. Yeah, that's basically what you want. Skirmisher advantage and pikes. Those are your 2 main components in a Spartan army, I think. Of course, you could always box, but that's not so fun, and some people frown upon that.
I do it sometimes.
Well, I do it sometimes too.
Awesome. Well, thank you for the insight, and finally, any general tips to the aspiring multiplayer players want to become just as good as you? What would you? What kind of advice would you give them?
First of all, they have to get good knowledge of the game. Well, they're gonna have to relearn the game every patch. Not fully relearn it, but the balancing aspect of it. Because units won't always do the same against other units in different patches. For instance, Cataphracts used to be like no-brainer before because they'd be so strong, and nowadays it's not the same anymore. Or elephants used to be really good. Or chariots in the first patch, they did literally nothing. They could barely get any kills back then. But now it's completely different.
Yeah.
So this is why you have to learn the game every time when there's a new patch, and test a lot. So that's number 1 thing.
Okay.
You have to learn how units match against others. You have to learn how to use abilities properly. You have to learn how to use control groups. And another good thing to do would be to watch your own replays to see what you did wrong. And they actually got fixed I think either in this patch or one of the previous patches, because they used to not be very accurate before.
Mm-hmm. I remember that.
And sometimes there were some pretty weird results. Like I won a battle, and then when I went into the replay to cast it or look at it or something, I actually lost. Sometimes that happens.
What?
Yeah. Oh, I lost this battle. I don't remember that ever happening. Oh. So, and after you do that, basically just learning the game and watching your own replays. The third step is, I say, just joining tournaments and participating in them and meeting new people and asking them for help and practicing with them and just being involved in the community or the competitive community, and watching how other people play games, of course. Like, that's also important.
Mm-hmm.
And to be active in the competitive community. That's what you kind of need to do. Because alone you will not be able to succeed if it's just like you're playing alone and you're not asking anyone for help or just looking at what other people do. Well,
Sure.
you might succeed if you're like really amazing, but normally one person cannot gather enough knowledge by himself to do well.
Very true. Awesome. Well, I want to thank you. I'm very honored by your presence. Thank you for letting me interview you. And any closing thoughts from you, my friend?
I would like to thank you for this opportunity, for the fact that you actually invited me to be interviewed.
Of course.
By you, and I'm very honored myself to be present here,
thank you.
in this video. And it was a very awesome experience. This interview, it's really nice, really good questions as well, and I hope that people will actually find this interview helpful. I hope that more people will play Total War multiplayer, even if it's not Rome 2, if it's Napoleon, the original Rome, Medieval 2, whatever they would like to play. Because multiplayer is fun.
Very fun. All right. Well, thanks a lot, my friend, and we shall talk again very soon, I think.
Yeah. Thank you as well.
Thank you.
Goodbye.
Bye. Cool.